Hello everyone, my name is Paul. I work for a company called Micrographics. We are an Autodesk reseller in Cape Town, South Africa. And today I'd like to discuss with you the identification of elements within Revit. So in anticipation of that, I've got open one of my models. It's a Revit model. And for those of you that don't know, any Revit element has an identification. So if you have a look at the properties under Manage, you can see you've got the IDs of selection. So quite often you'll find the short little number. This one is 994724 for that element. Right? And if you've got that element, 994724, even if it's not selected, you can also select by ID 994724 and select that, and it will select that item. This is what is known as a short ID. And you can imagine if you've got lots of files, that is not such a big number. It's only within the tens of thousands. Now, what if you've got multiple files? You'll find that a lot of elements have the same short IDs. So generally, to uniquely ID them, we've got a number for the Revit file and a number for the element, and we can combine those to give a better value. In addition to that, if we had to run Dynamo, which I've got running in the background here, then we can ask the elements for something that is called the long. There's the categories, all the elements of the categories. We put them together in a list. We're flattening the list. And then over here, we'll combine all of those. There's the unique ID, element.unique ID. It's built into the Revit API. And that will give us a much longer GUID. These global unique identifiers, they're pretty much not guaranteed, but the chances that you would generate a similar number anywhere on the planet is negligible. So if you go to a store and you have a barcode, you'll typically find that it's corresponding to something like a GUID. It's unique on this planet. The chances are very good that it is unique on this planet. And for those of you that know what we're on about, you can also create a shared instance or type parameter, and you can actually map that onto the element. So there's a mechanical equipment. There is my PFS, it's just my name, Paul Francis Storm, .element.unique ID. That's the shared parameter that I created. And there is the mapped global unique identifier. There you can see where it is. There it is. So that's interesting. In addition to that, there is also something that is called the IFC GUID. So this happens automatically without you even creating an IFC export. So it's built into Revit. It's hard coded into Revit that it generates that sort of GUID. That's interesting. Some of the other packages, and I'm interested in this and I want to investigate this, for instance, your AutoCAD and your AutoCAD verticals, they probably generate something like that in the IFC file that you export. One of the interesting things about this IFC GUID is you can hijack this. So by default, it's given a value and it keeps that value until such a time as what you allocated something that you want. So you could, for argument's sake, choose to identify that long GUID as the IFC GUID and set it to that. But I've been wondering recently, why would you want to do that? If it just works out the box, why don't you? But you've got a choice now. You can see that there's a Revit global unique identifier and there's another one. Unfortunately, the Revit global unique identifier, that does not seem to work if you select by ID. It does not select that. All right, so the global unique identifier can't be used with the same dialog. That's a pity, but you can use Dynamo to also ask what is the ID of that element, short ID, and we'll come up with that. So, all right, it's not a complete loss, but what use is it really, the fact that we can identify it? Well, you can generate the ID based on that number if you so choose. So when it comes to the reason I've investigated this was because of asset management. I want to very much dive into asset management And this was the reason why I had to look up. Now, I'm used to the global unique identifiers. I've used that in the past to uniquely identify elements within Revit, within Dynamo scripts. I found it very useful then. Currently, my view is actually, well, you've got the IFC GUID that's already integrated into Revit, so why not just use that instead? That's the way that my thoughts are currently going. Just to show you, in the Autodesk Construction Cloud, here we've got your assets there. You do have sorry, let's go for bold, and there's our assets. Let's choose one of the assets. You can map these model elements across onto assets within the cloud. The equipment must still be done, but clicking on one of these items, you can see that we've got the mapping of the elements. Let me try and find this quickly. So if we go to, I think it was under settings, models. There's one of the models. We open the model like that. And then you can manage assets. And that will show you the mapping of the assets. Just quickly wait for that to resolve. There we go. These are doors. Okay. Put in our assets, import assets. There we go. Next to map properties. And it's when we get to map properties, let's click on these items over there. You can see how it's actually getting mapped. So in this case, I mapped it onto the barcode. Okay, but you could just as well have chosen the IFC GUID. Okay, so you don't have to worry about identifying these elements within the within ACC Build, because it's got an IFC GUID, and I suspect that the AutoCAD verticals and other packages, because Industry Foundation class IFC is an open format and is used quite widely within the industry, that you would be able to get away with just having an IFC parameter. And if it's a non-Revit file, then you might even find that using the IFC directly is maybe the way to go. I'm guessing here, but that is my suspicion. All right, so it's not a bad coding to use. And then lastly, I just wanted to show you as well in Tandem that when you're importing a file into Tandem, let's select one of these items over there. There's our equipment. There's the properties of the equipment. Again, both the IFC GUID shows up. So once again, it's out the box. Why recreate something? Why run a Dynamo script? It's already built in. And then we've also got the PFS GUID. There's the one that's the Revit ID that I wrote over, but it is available for you if you should choose to use it. I don't see why you would. I mean, you could hijack the IFC GUID and just write the Revit GUID into the IFC GUID. That's an option. And then in addition to that, over here, I've started investigating the Eptura template. You can see on the classification, on the Eptura classification, there's the Eptura asset data. The Eptura model number, there's the asset ID. And again, on the asset ID, you would be able to search for IFC GUID. That does show up, as well as your own GUID or your Revit GUID. If you wanted to map that across, it would be available to you as well. All right, so again, the IFC GUID built into Revit, maybe that's the way to go. It just takes all the hassle out of it. As long as nobody changes that GUID within Revit, you should be fine. So perhaps just for consistency, the statement that we can maybe make is the Revit GUID is not going to change for that element, and that's guaranteed. Whereas the IFC GUID leaves itself open for manipulation. So if somebody inadvertently enters the wrong data into the IFC GUID, it's going to lose its connectivity to whatever is occurring within the other platforms, possibly. So perhaps running a dynamic script and mapping the Revit GUID across onto the IFC GUID if you wanted to have 100% certainty, but I don't think that's necessary. So, that's the only logical argument that one can make for using the Revit GUID in a dynamic script just before you bring it into a digital twin. Make sure that the identifiers are consistent to the element IDs within Revit. Of course, you'd have to do it for every category or for every element within Revit, which is not always fast or efficient. We might miss something, make a mistake. So there's always room for error unless it is very, very well maintained. And that basically is the point that we're trying to make with this video, is that you could just rely on the IFC GUID for the elements and not worry about any further identifiers for your elements, because it does have the IFC GUID. I'm looking forward to learning more about assets and asset management within Tandem. I certainly think that there is a lot of intelligence to be learned from the models and to be managed that way in a real world environment. And I'm looking forward to learning more about that. And I'll take you along on that journey with through some of the blogs that we do. But for now, I hope you enjoy Revit. I hope you've got success with your projects and with your journey into creating digital twins to manage real world projects with. Until next time, bye now.